On this Mother's Day, I'd like to share some advice that I received a couple years ago. I'm not a mother, so I didn't receive it myself, but that I heard a couple years ago. And it's actually advice I don't agree with. So let me give it to you, then I'll debate what it is. Heard that a mother, and I guess a father as well, should not try to be the friend of their children. Maybe you've heard this before. Parents, don't be your children's friends. Makes sense in one sense, I guess, if you say that means don't be their buddy. But when we look at our gospel today, when we hear our gospel, what does Jesus say? I no longer call you slaves, but I call you friends. And if Jesus wants to be our friend, shouldn't our parents want to be our friends as well? And as a parent, shouldn't you want to be your child's friend then? I mean, we're called to be like Jesus. But of course, the question is, what does it mean to be one's friend? It's not just agreeing with them all the time. It's not just hanging out with them. It's not making sure that they like you. Rather, a true friend we know is what? Put very bluntly, we've heard this before, is someone who makes you a better person and who truly loves you. Someone who knows you like no one else. Someone who is available to challenge you when you are making mistakes. Of course, to raise you up when you're down as well. This is what it means to be a true friend. They truly love you and desire the best for you. Sounds like a mom to me. Hopefully, right? You know who else longs for this friendship? Not just parents. God does. God longs to be our friend. He longs for us to know Him. He already knows us, by the way. He created us. He knows everything about us. But what He wants of us, what He desires of us, we hear in our gospel today and other times as well, is for us to grow into our friendship with Him, to grow in our love of Him, and to let Him be our friend. He loves us so much that He says, "You're not my slaves. I give you a gift. I give you the gift of free will." We get to choose if we want to be God's friend or not. He always wants to be our friend. This hit me a couple years ago. I was talking to my spiritual director. Spiritual director is someone who helps you figure out where God is in your life. And I was going through kind of a rough time in prayer. A lot of distractions were happening. And in prayer, I was kind of being distracted a lot. I didn't even want to pray much anymore. I did my breviary, I did my rosary. But the contemplative prayer, where I was trying to spend, an hour maybe of just praying with God, letting Him love me, wasn't happening. I've been looking at the clock saying, okay, when is this hour over? And next thing I know, I said, well, maybe I'll do 40 minutes today. Next thing I know, I'm only do 20 minutes today. That's how my spiritual director was. It's very, very hard to pray. And he looked at me, my spiritual director did, and he said, Alex, God just wants to be your friend. It's not a profound statement, but it stuck with me. God wants to be my friend. This all-knowing, this all-powerful, this all-loving God wants to be my friend. With all the times I've abandoned Him, with all the times I've walked away from Him, He wants to be with me. Of course, it's not just for me. It's for all of us. When we think about this truly, that God wants to be your friend, how does it make you feel? Pretty dang good, I think. Because God is the best possible friend we can have. He will always want to be our friend. He will. He's never going to stop that. But it's up to us. Do we want to be God's friend? Do we truly want to have that relationship with Him? Once again, it's up to us. As you know from personal experience, to build up a friendship with someone takes time. It takes building up trust. It takes putting ourselves out on a limb. When we look at Christ, we can see that He does so much for us as a friend. He lays down His life for us, as we hear about in the gospel. He truly is the best possible friend that we can have. We will never find a better friend than Jesus. We will never find a better friend than God. And we know that this friendship is not just for one or two people. It's accessible to all of us. Jesus saying, let me be with you. Let me truly help you. Let me love you. We see how Jesus does it with the disciples, don't we? See how he spends time with them. He calls these 12 apostles into a unique relationship with him. He spends time with them. He talks to them. He lets them ask questions. He asks questions of himself. Do you know what he does in this friendship? He puts himself out in a limb. He says, I'm going to do these things for you. And I know that you may reject me. We have an example of this in John 6. There he is, the bread of life discourse. Talking, I am the bread of life. Whoever eats on me will live forever. And half the disciples, half of his followers couldn't take it. They leave. They abandon him. Jesus looks up. He looks up after they all left. And he says, will you too abandon me? And they say, where else will we go? We want this friendship. We desire this friendship. Jesus puts himself out on the limb for them, as he does for us as well. We can take a deeper look now as well at our gospel writer's relationship with Jesus. John, the beloved disciple, we can tell has this unique relationship with him. And how does John build up this unique relationship? Being his beloved apostle. I like to imagine it wasn't just John asking questions or Jesus talking to John. Rather, it was like each other revealing more and more of each other to each other. Coming to know each other. Coming to rely on each other. Coming to love each other this filial type of way, this brotherly type of way. And what happens in this relationship when Jesus is on the cross laying down his life for all of us, only one apostle is left. John, the beloved. And why is this? Because he had a deep relationship with Christ. Of course, the end of John's gospel, this beautiful image of Peter and Jesus speaking, feed my sheep, feed my sheep, feed my sheep. But who's there as well? John is. And I like to imagine the end of John's gospel. It's not written down, but that Peter leaves. I like to imagine in my mind that it's John and Jesus walking down the beach together. Not Jesus way in front, not Jesus way behind, but side by side. And this is what our friendship with God is supposed to look like. That he's our constant companion. That we let him into our life, that we come to know him and he comes to know us. And we say, here I am, Lord. Be with me. This is what a friendship is supposed to look like. Of course, it wasn't just in the disciples that God gave himself in friendship. We look all the way back to the Old Testament. We have the covenants that God established with Abraham and Noah and all other covenants. When I think of a covenant, I like to think of a child way of friendship. I like to think about it as almost like a pinky swear between God and the people. Remember pinky swears? Maybe they have an app for that now. I don't know. Maybe they should. It's $1 million idea right there. Pinky swear app. All right. But I pinky swear I'll always be your best friend. With the covenant, God is saying, I pinky swear, but more than this, I make this covenant with you that I am always going to be there. That you will always be my people. And I will be your God. That you will always be my friend. That I am going to give of myself completely to you. This is what a covenant looks like. Of course, we also let God give us commandments not to oppress us. Look at the relationship Moses had with God in the burning bush and putting his trust in him and taking the people out of Egypt, fleeing from Egypt. And then Moses goes to the top of the mountain and the 10 commandments are revealed to him. Because God is saying, here are my people, and I want to show them the way to live so they truly may be the best versions of themselves. We hear in our gospel today once again about these commandments. Remain in my love. Follow these commandments, not to oppress, but to give you life. Once again, God saying, I want to be your friend. So now we're thinking, well, maybe this friendship ended after Jesus ascended into heaven. But that's not the case, because we can look at the past 2,000 years that God continues to give of himself to us, continues to desire to be our friend, wants us to walk with him. Some great examples of this, of course, are the saints. The saints truly had a relationship with God. We can say that the saints explicitly, their best friend was who? Not their mother superior, not the Pope, not their spouse, but God. Not that these other people weren't important, but they knew that their best friend, Their constant companion had to be God. They were madly in love with God, and they would do anything for him. We can confidently say that they saw God as their friend, the one they desired the most to be with. And how did they express this relationship with God? How did they express this friendship? How did they witness this? Not just by spending countless hours in prayer, which they did, but they started to resemble God. They started to emulate God. I don't know about you, but when I start hanging out with my best friends, you know what I start doing when I develop a real relationship with them? I start acting like them. I start talking like I'm from Southern Indiana and be like, what up, bro? 'Cause that's Father Dustin Bain. Nah, bro. He'll say that over and over again. So the next thing I know, I'm on the phone with other people. I'm like, Carlson, what are you talking like Bain for? I go, oh, I guess I must have hung out with him for a while. This happens with friends. We start emulating them. The same with the saints. They started emulating God. When people looked at John the Baptist, who did they see? Yes, John the Baptist, they saw God. They saw Christ in him. This is what the saints do. They emulate God. They desire to spend time with him, and that wore off on them. This is what a friendship with God looks like. When the people see us, hopefully they see Christ inside of us. But this will only happen when we have this true friendship with God. Not a friendship that we just check in every once in a while with, like a Facebook type of friend. No. The relationship God wants with us, this friendship, is that we are always with him, our constant companion, walking down the beach together. Not far ahead of us, not far behind us, but right next to us. And to think, God wants to be our friend. He does. All we have to do is accept this friendship, spend time with him, build our trust with him, go out on a limb and take courage and a risk and say, I'm putting myself out there too, God, because I'm abandoning other things, because I desire your friendship above money. I desire your friendship above even pleasure. I desire your friendship because I know it will bring me fulfillment. This is what it looks like to have a true friendship with God. Once again, how do we do this? It's by diving in. It's by going into the deep waters. It's diving in and spending time with God. And this is developed both through prayer, but also through trust and putting our faith in God. And saying in words, God, I desire to be with you. And then saying with words and our actions, God, I know you want to be my friend. I too desire to be your friend.